Good morning, everyone. Are you ready and settled? I have to say, with all the good mornings we get in the chat from everywhere in the world, this is a very beautiful morning already, or evening from the colleagues from New Zealand. Um, so, welcome everyone to have today together a little introduction on what the data.europa.eu portal is and what you can do with it. I'm very happy to see that so many people joined us to celebrate the end of this Open Data Week and also Women's Day for all the women in here, together with Inma, my colleague, and I. So we will give you this presentation. We work both in the data.europa team. So we work on the portal every day. Bit by bit, we take steps to make it every day a little bit better for you. Before I start, some practical details. This webinar is recorded. We will share both recording and the presentation with you, so there is no need to write everything we say down. If you have questions, there will be plenty of time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. So we welcome you whenever you think of something to share it in the chat. We will then collect it and go through the questions at the end. Also, after the webinar, and we appreciate if you do this, if you have a minute to fill in our feedback form, that would be very kind. You will get a code to scan at the end of the presentation, but there will also appear a link on top of your screen. So it's very easy to do. So, with no further ado, let's start. First of all, what is data.europa? Let's start with the beginning. So it's the official portal for European data. We at the Publications Office manage this, and we work together with many other EU institutions and European countries. What we do basically is we support, on the one hand, the data providers who bring data to us, but also we provide many services to the people who use or could use our data or who want to learn about data. You will discover a lot about all of this bit by bit through the presentation. But maybe to give you some background, why is this portal there? Why did we set it up? Well, as you may know, there are a couple of laws in Europe that oblige or motivate the EU institutions and agencies, as well as European countries, to share their open data, so to share them as public administrations. To give them a platform to put it all together, we started data.europa. And as you see very well in this image, data.europa is now really the middle, where you can find all the data that, from one hand, we harvest from the institutions, but also from local, regional, national public administrations in different countries, as well as from geoportals. So all this data, together with rich metadata, go in the portal, and there everyone, all of you, and all our data users can find these data. And we see that our audience is quite big and varied. So on the one hand, we have fellow colleagues in public administrations. There are also developers that use our data to create something additional out of them. So an application, for example. We have researchers that use it for their articles or papers, students, we have private companies, journalists who use it for fact-based articles. And indeed, we also see a general interest from the public, which can mean basically all of us. Because when I read the news as a private person, I often see that data are used to explain something in an article. And this sometimes makes me curious to learn a bit more about it, to also understand this a bit. And we see that I'm not the only one who speaks like that. So general public can be anyone with an interest in open data. And what we do for them, you will find also out during the presentation. Then what we also do is to try to improve the website. We welcome our data users that if they, for example, the developers, develop value adding application on top of the data, or if they have another story to share, we invite them to share this with us so we can publish it on the portal, so to again inspire others. But we also welcome all of you as data users. If you see that somewhere something can be improved, or if you have the feeling that the data set is missing, you can also feed it back to us. We will then get in touch with the data providers and try to solve as much as possible. We do indeed have some statistics on who our users are, and we recently did our annual survey. Maybe some of you may have participated in it. That's one of our sources of information. We also do analytics in which we can see, for example, from which applications they join, or which, if they join mobile or on the desktop, from where they come, depending on the IP address, what they most click on. So that's a bit the way to find out for us who they are. But what is also interesting for us is to speak during events like this, because then also we see on who participates, who could be interested, or who is interested. So voila. With this explanation, let's move a bit further. Here you see also again in a nutshell that we don't have only data, but we provide a lot of information and knowledge also around these data. We have our data.europa Academy, we facilitate the community, we publish many publications. Inma, she's a real expert in this, and she will tell you all about this after my little talk. So this is how it fits all together. We have the data. Out of that comes a lot of information, and based on that, we build knowledge. First, the data, of course, because this is I call it sometimes the raw material of everything we do here. And we are quite proud to say that we have in the meantime more than 1.6 million data sets, and they come from 183 data providers, and this is every day still growing. It's a lot of data, not always easy to just navigate through. This is why we have several search options. We also offer you filters, and if you try to find something, I would consult you to use the filters because they make it much more targeted. If, however, you want to do a really expert search, you can also do queries via the SparkUL endpoints, and we offer for certain data also access via API. Now, SparkUL, when I came to this business, it was a bizarre crocodile for me. This is why, as this will be the case for many people, we will also soon bring live some additional search possibilities like an advanced search and an easier expert search. So that's something to look forward to. We also have, for all the data sets that we have, rich metadata, and they allow you to find them also. All these metadata are translated in all the EU languages, so 24 different languages. For all the other text, we have a direct link with an embedded machine translation of good quality. So you can always get it in the text in one of the 24 languages. To make it easier for you to use and to understand the data, we provide them in as many as possible formats. For anything that is CSV, and for the geodata sets, you can have quick visualizations. Just in a couple of clicks, you can visualize the geodata, for example, on a map, and all the other data in a chart, for example. You can indeed also embed your data sets into other websites. And for those, for example, who want to use to cite them in, for example, an academic article or an article that you're writing for a newspaper or another paper, you can export directly citations. So this was the little open data part. I cannot follow the chat because you're very interested and there are many questions, but I saw by accident one passing by on high value data sets. So for those that don't know what this is, high value data sets are a certain category of data sets that was defined on a European level. And this means that soon all the countries will have to share what is considered as high value data. And these high value data, it are, for example, statistical data, meteorological data, other geodata, economic data, and some other categories. Environmental data, transport data are in there, I think. And they have to be shared in an extra open way. They have to be interoperable. They have to comply with certain metadata descriptions. They have to be machine readable. They have to become available via APIs, etc. So as we consider them of high value, we also want to make it extra easy for all of you to reuse them and to benefit from this value and even to create more value out of it. Now we see already that people are interested to find this specific type of data. And for this, we are working hard behind the scenes to create special access points for this, also with some dashboards, etc. So also watch out for this, it's coming. And with this, I think I spoke enough for now. I will hand the floor to Inma, who will tell you what kind of information we have around data. Inma, over to you.
Thank you very much, Els, also for the introduction about our services and also giving a first hint about what high value datasets are and what we're doing for it. So just to continue a bit on the narrative that Els was mentioning before on data. Oh, I think I'm blurred. Right, sorry. On data.europa.eu, we don't only do data, but we also do information and knowledge. And in this case, we put a lot of efforts on giving context to the data. So our role has always been like collecting data, collecting facts from different public administrations. But what happens when you put this data into context? What happens when you are giving information around it to help to interpret the data, to contextualize this information? This is something that we definitely do on data.europa.eu. So on information around open data, there are like different services, different projects we do in order to to give context to the data, and I'm going to go through them in detail. But later, of course, if you have specific questions on one specific service, that's why we have allocated time at the end of the session. We'll have like 20, 40, 50 minutes to address your questions and deep dive a bit more into your questions or your comments. So on information about data, we have different communication products. So the first is data stories. So we tell stories about data, we give narrative to them, and we extract the public sector data, and we give around information and narrative so we can grasp the relevant value that it has. We also have podcasts because we are living in a world of podcasts. And I will talk more about it because we are there interviewing experts on the field to speak about complex policy topics or, for example, how the data ecosystem is being shaped. We also have studies. This is a very important part of our work because we see that, as I was mentioning, the data ecosystem is being shaped throughout these years, and there's more to come because we're going through a transition phase towards a digital decade and a data economy. So with these studies, we work with different researchers, with academics, experts, in order to grasp this information and understanding what are going to be the the trends, or what is going to be the ecosystem impact. No? And then we also have novelties, like what's happening in the open data world in general, in the data strategy as well. So we have news. So since we see that it's constantly changing and there are new coming events coming up, we have a news section and an event section. So they're published every year. And we also have a newsletter that we recommend you to register to it. It's a monthly newsletter where you can really have information on the different activities that we do. So in terms of data stories, as I was mentioning before, we grasp what data has to tell. In these cases, every data story has a specific general topic, I would say, but we also do interviews. For example, we can do into food system, into forest fires, family spending. We touch upon these different topics. We extract the data that is already on data.europa.eu, published thanks to the public sector, and we contextualize and we make it more easy to understand. In order to do this, we work with data visualization experts, with, for example, like Caroline Goulart from Data Eyes or Federica Fragapane, to ensure that we bring value to the data and we understand how to communicate it to the general audience. As I was mentioning, we also do interviews with data providers, because we understand that one essential part of being the bridge between data users and data providers is that there's like an interaction on best practices. So that's why we did in the past some interviews with some specific public sector, national public administrations in this case. Maybe some of the people who help us to do this are in the room today, who explain how they're moving towards open data policy, how it's implemented, etc., etc. So somehow we can say that data stories are this narrative that simplify the complexity that sometimes you find on the data. And from this, you can really grasp the factual information and have your own opinion on a given topic. Then, as I was mentioning, we have a podcast. So we launched last year the Open Data Cafe. So there are a combination of podcasts with different expert guests as we had. We already had 6 published. We will see if we continue or not with this, but this is something definitely where you can listen on this wonderful weekend. Why not? And we target different audiences depending on the interest that you may have. So what you're going to find here is that there are going to be different discussions, engaging interviews with experts from United States, but also European countries, experts on open data, on IT, but also on legal matters, because at the end of the day, a very important part of data sharing is the legal side and the intellectual property as well. So we have different topics, trying to target the main topics of our times, or the main topics that can be of interest for everyone. So the legal and technical developments in the field of open data, data quality and the implications of data quality, data cleaning, access to the data, like all the backend work that makes data be openly available to everyone. We also go into data reuse cases, application examples on how they use data from public sector to develop a full-fledged service. And of course, we also had to tackle a bit artificial intelligence and what is going to be the future of open data in this context. So I definitely suggest you to go through it, because it's a very interesting piece of information you can get while you are doing your day-to-day activities. So then, in terms of studies, it's true that we have many studies, reports on different matters, but there's one that I wanted to bring to you specifically, which is the Open Data Maturity Assessment. So as mentioned before by Els, we are connecting users with data providers. And public sector, we can see that they are moving towards a more open data policies, moving towards data sharing culture, where we create like a full network in Europe to be more competitive and have value out of data, because it's something that definitely it's where we're moving forward now. So there's a very important matter on these initiatives, that is how can you really understand how Europe is developing on this field. How can you actually compare countries, how they're progressing, what is the state of play? That's why we launched many years ago the Open Data Maturity Assessment. So the Open Data Maturity Assessment is a benchmark. It is a benchmark to measure progress of the different countries. So every country participates with a self-assessment where they fill in several questions according to 4 different dimensions of the maturity assessments. So these 4 dimensions are portal, policy, quality, and impact. So they do the self-assessment, and we combine this information. We also undertake our part to ensure that it's according to the methodology of the report. And with this, we do this yearly publication that we publish normally at the end of December, where we share the state of play of open data in Europe. In this last publication, we have 35 countries participating, which is great is to see that we don't only have EU countries that are now implemented like the reuse directive, the Open Data Directive, or the Data Governance Act, but we can see other countries going in the same direction, such as EFTA countries that participate in this assessment, or candidate countries that are also willing to participate in this exercise. So it's great to see the willingness to contribute and to do this exercise, to do this self-assessment. It comes also with some recommendations at the end of the text and of the report. And as a key thing that I would like to bring to you is that we are now on the 10th anniversary of the report. So there were going to be some novelties coming up. I don't want to disclose too much information, but it will be like a big restructuring where we will enhance the way it's visualized. It's going to be more interactive, more understandable. So basically, we're going to try to leverage from what we had now as a PDF publication to something else. So there's something that is coming up with the 10th anniversary, so stay tuned about that. And then just to finalize on the information, we think that a very important part is to be updated about what's happening in the data ecosystem, not only in Europe, but also we try to map other events happening in the rest of the world. So we have news pieces, events, and newsletter. So news pieces are very short pieces of information, half page, where you can really get a first insight about a specific topic that can be valuable for you. From there, you can, for example, get to know about a specific publication from a specific NGO on the matter, between other topics. We also have the events calendar. So in this events calendar, we are very happy to publish data events happening in different countries. And actually, I invite you that if there are some interesting events that can be interesting for this community, feel free to share it with us through the contact form, because we'll be happy to publish it and to promote it further as a multiplier. And then since there are like many initiatives happening, we also have this monthly newsletter that includes all the latest events, recent publication, upcoming webinars. So as you can see, just with a sneak peek, we have a lot of different projects and services going on. So it's always useful to register to this newsletter to get insights about what's the state of play every month and be sure that you're not missing anything. But what happens when you go to a next level, when you move from data to information and then from information to knowledge? So knowledge is a step beyond information. It means what happens when you have this contextualized information and you are actually aware about it, you digest it, you understand it, you interpret it, and actually you get the skills from this information, from this contextualized information. So this is something we invest a lot of time on data.europa.eu on trying to be a knowledge hub for everyone. So in somehow what we could say is that we are trying to have like a 360% view of all open data services and trying to develop services according to the needs of our users. So one of them, and is why we organize this event, is the Data Europa Academy. So Data Europa Academy aims to be the knowledge center for everyone, on not only open data, but also other matters. It's true that the Publications Office has been investing a lot of time and efforts on creating training material, webinars, conferences to bring this topic closer to citizens, to general users. But it's true that the Data Europa Academy was born a couple of years ago because we wanted to have a specific place for it. We wanted to create different profiles, and according to that, meeting the needs of these profiles through the Academy. So if you go through it, you will see that it doesn't matter if you are at the beginner stage, intermediate, or you are a more advanced user. Maybe you are interested more on the policy aspects, you are more interested on the metadata quality, like data quality, or how to develop an application, for example. You can find something for you on the Data Europa Academy. In order to do this, we undertook a yearly exercise, a user survey, from which we try to do a profiling exercise of our users, understanding who they are, and according to that, we develop a planning for them. So I really invite you to go through it. We're still improving it. We're thinking how to best make it work better for the purpose that that aims. But you will find a lot of information relevant for you. And just to follow up on this, we deployed last year the Data Europa Academy version 2, I would say. So we saw that we needed like a big restructuring of our lessons and map them into courses. So the strategy that we had is that we did this profiling exercise. We divided the different profiles depending on the level of expertise on the matter. And then we did also a selection per keyword or per topic. So you will find some on communication, data visualization, and data spaces, businesses, journalism, quality, impact, portal, or policy. So with this, you can go easily into the content and understanding what topics or what webinars, reports, e-learnings are more useful for you. So with this restructuring, we divided into different courses, as you can see here mapped. So we had introducing open data, understanding the legal side of data, data metadata quality. That is a very important part of the process. Or you also, if you're a business or you have SME or you are a startup who wants to use data, monetize the value of data, there's a specific course for you on incorporating data into your publication. We also saw that the business side of data was a very important thing in which we had to invest our time. So we also created a specific course on creating your business with open data. So basically, if you're thinking about starting your business, you can get to know other use cases, other companies that did the same, and how they use this open data to change their business models. I think this is something very, very interesting to get to know. We also have one course on measuring the impact of open data. I think it's one of the big questions that we always have when we are raising awareness and promoting sharing data. What is going to be the impact out of it? So we did a lot of research. We undertook webinars. We explore with different use cases. We also have the use case observatory for that we can discuss later, speak later about it, where we did an evaluation about what can be potentially the impact that open data has for the community, and then you have a specific course for that. And we also have data spaces. As you know, data spaces are aiming to shape our economy, since they are like a mechanism of data sharing and data pooling across sectorial domains and different industries. So since it's a very like a big novelty in the data ecosystem, we wanted to have a specific course to unleash the potential that it has. And actually, we will have soon webinars about it. And then, of course, we also developed for policy officers one course on understanding data governance with open data, because we understand that in the implementation of a data policy in an organization, at country level, in your government, there's a need of change of the mindset, a change of data governance in your organization, and how do you get started there. So we created a specific course for that, where we also have some trainings and some information about, for example, the legislation of the Data Governance Act. And then, of course, we have 3 courses on data visualization, because data has no value if you don't visualize, if you don't conceptualize, if you don't communicate it. So we have 3 different courses on data visualization, from introducing the key concepts of data visualization to really get inspiring use cases. Here we had 2 key publications, interactive guides for your attention. So one is the Data in Publications Guide. So it's an interactive publication that guides you through the whole process of writing about data, contextualizing the data, etc. So I really invite you to go through it, because it's a very interesting resource. And we also have the Data Visualization Guide that talks more about the data visualization, the data communication. What are the different tools that you have, what are the different types of charts or that you can use. So these concrete matters, you can also find it there. And then to finalize, we also have on the data.europa.eu tab one section that is documentation, because we see that there's like a lot of information. We produce a lot of content, but at the same time, we should help you to go through it. So since we have data providers and data users and reusers, we create a specific information packages for them. So for data providers, as a data provider, public administration, you will find information on the data.ap metadata model, how to publish data with us, what are the harvesting options that we offer, etc., etc., as well as recommendations on data quality and metadata quality and data citation. And for users, we wanted to help them to go through the website and getting the information from it. So we had we have there some information on using the search function. But of course, you can find other services such as data storage. That is something we also have in the website. The licensing assistant to understand what are the data licenses that you can use for your data, Creative Commons or other type of license, and also data analytics. So with this, I thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward also to the discussion on the chat, because I see there are like many questions. So we can pass, if you want, to the questions and answer part. I thank you very much for your time, and yeah, I would like to see also my colleague else now, so we can go through the questions.
I was coming.
Yeah, great. Okay, so
Inma, if you like, I can maybe start.
of course,
Like that, you can have a little drink of water in the meantime.
perfect.
So, all of you, really thanks to see this lively chat and all the questions. We try to cluster them a little bit. So, Inma and I will go through them bit by bit. If we see that we don't have the time to answer them all, we promise that we will get back to you with answers to the ones that we didn't have. So while I was talking, we noticed that there were some questions on how we harvest the data. So how the data comes to data.europa. We have like from the EU institutions, we harvest them directly. From the local and regional data providers, for those we go through the national ones. So what happens is that the local and the regional, they feed into their national ones. So for example, in Germany, the Bavarian data come into the German data portal, and we then harvest the German data portal, but as well the German geo data portal, which is a bit separate. And it's like that it works in many countries. So this is on the large scale. For the data providers themselves, if they want to put in data, there are different methods, or we harvest them automatically or via an API, or and some EU institutions or services do this. We have also what we call the data providers interface, and there they can encode their data manually. This is, of course, a bit more work, but some don't provide so many data, and for them it's just easier. Also, there was a question on who is considered as a data provider. And we have a quite clear scope there. It's open data from public administrations. But this is the case for the moment. Maybe in the future this will evolve, and under the provisions of the Data Governance Act, we now have also something that is called the the European Register for Protected Data.
Definitely.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. I'm saying this is right.
It's right, eh? It's brand new. So, and there, as we are talking about protected data, of course, we will not share the data itself, but what we provide a register where you can find what kind of data is it and to who can I reach out to find this data. Also, what I saw in the chat is that there are many questions on specific data sets, for example, on why is this or this one not updated, or how are the data shared about this or this directive or something. For those, we like to give you personalized advice. We also like to get in touch with the data providers if needed. So for those, we would really invite you to get in touch by us via info@data.europa.eu or by using the contact form. If you work for a public administration or agency and you see that some of your data are not there yet, and you have a suggestion to harvest your portal or part of the portal, there is also a specific form to suggest this. Um, Then what? Ah, yeah. There was also a question on updating data sets. And we do everything possible to make sure they are as good as possible updates. When we notice, like for example, some EMA data that are not recently updated, then we get in touch as much as possible with the data providers. Now, as you saw that we have 183 data providers and we automatize a lot processes, we cannot have this personal touch with everyone. The good news is where we harvest them automatically on a regular basis, there we have a more stable stream, and let's hope also update. But if you ever spot also again that there is a data set that is not updated, please let us know and we do our best to improve it. Inma, I give a bit the word to you.
Yes, indeed. I see that there are many questions in the chat. Thank you for covering some of them. If you want, I can reply on how many people are working full time on the Open Data Portal. So here, as I was mentioning, it's an initiative by the Publications Office of the European Union. So I would say the core team, it's around 15 people, but we work a lot with external services and help and other people, like other experts, to give advice and help and give technical support upfront. So this is more or less how the team is divided. And the expertise, I would say that we're a combination of people working on IT, more on data quality, and then also we have the more communication part. That is something we were presenting now as well. So there's like a big combination of different expertise. Um, there was a very interesting question from Julia on how the portal fits the European common data spaces. Thank you very much for the question. Actually, something that where we try to give some clarity in one of the reports. So if you go to the Data Europa Academy, in the course of data spaces, there's one report on the role of data.europa.eu in the core in the how it fits data spaces. So it really it's like a very interesting publication where we speak about that. But basically, data spaces are sectorial, as you know, on different industries like mobility, culture, health, etc. Whereas we see that open data should be and our role in general should be something more horizontal, I would say, because in somehow we are trying to, data space are trying to make data sharing publicly available between sectors, but it's true that some of these data will be open to everyone, not only to these industries. This is where we play a role. So we have to, we work with different stakeholders, different publishers, or different people participating on on these data spaces coming from the public sector, and we see how we can publish this data on data.europa.eu. But we have to also bear in mind that we publish data from public sector, and data spaces is beyond that, because we also have sector sharing data from private companies. But we try to collaborate together, because at the end of the day, they are like data sharing initiatives. Okay, there was another question from Manuel on with whom we collaborate on the Data Europa Academy. So yes, indeed, we have also external instructors, external contributors, because we think that for many things, like many aspects that we have on the Data Europa Academy, it should be covered by experts in the field, working not only in the private sector, but also going beyond Europe. So we always try to invite experts in the field, no matter if they are coming from other sectors. So yes, and you will see this also in our webinars, that sometimes we are trying to have different sectors. So we have public sector represented, private sector represented, NGOs, other organizations, to really have like a different view from the different industries. Else, I don't know if there are questions. Okay, I will see more questions.
Inma, if you like, I
Yes,
can do a couple.
I agree. Let's do that.
So there was still a question from Peter, and it relates a bit to the questions we answered before, and that is if the European data portal operates with national data portals. So yes, we harvest from them. Then Pavo, very clever question. You asked if there are any restrictions for data consumption from the portal, like if we can only have so many requests per minute. No, you can use it as much as you want. If you will now do a massive attack on it, then it may be that you're blocked. But in principle, everything that we offer is for free, and it's there for you to reuse, but of course not to abuse. Yes, Inma, yes, you can do the next one.
Great. There was a question from Michael on will there be a central European data portal in the future that covers Inspire, high value data sets, the data directive data? So the how like data.europa.eu is trying to cover, I would say, all these different policies and all these different legislation. So for example, since we work on the implementation of open data policies in the future, when the high value data set is enforced and is in place, we will try to adapt data.europa.eu to showcase what are the data sets of high value published by public sector. For example, for the Data Governance Act, the same. So there was going to be the European Register for Protected Data, and we allocated one specific section to give visibility to this protected data from the public sector. So in somehow we can say that data.europa.eu is growing and evolving according to these different policy initiatives and novelties, and we try to allow more functionalities to bring together the implementation of all these legislation. I don't know if else you would like to say something about this, or
No, and this is also like what we mentioned for the high value data sets, that as also policy evolves, we have to evolve with it. And we do this the best possible to make these new types of data also in an easier way accessible to you. This is the same for inspired data, etc. Then maybe as I'm now speaking again,
Mhm.
there was a question from Katarina on the documentation. So Katarina, thanks for your interest in the documentation. The last months, what we did was to uh, to do a very big update and to make it a bit more user friendly. And now that the basics are there, we have colleagues assigned to keep an eye on it and who will update it as we go along. Um, Now that I'm talking about documentation, for anyone who is new in the field or who wants just an easy to read introduction both on open data in general, but also on the data portal, also for you, there is a lot in it. There is also more technical explanations, etc. But if you just read the start, it's a good beginner's guide. Then there was a question from Antonio about the application of data sets. And this is not always an easy point. We only harvest the highest level of data to avoid these duplications, but sometimes they are still happening. And then when we spot them, we remove them. Um, it is also possible that there will still be some duplications because our principle is we share the data, but they stay ownership of the data provider and they keep holding them. They have all the rights on them. So we don't want to touch too much the third-party data sets. Yes, for the data stories, um, that's a very interesting question from Abdul. Um, Maybe Inma, you can share a bit your experience with creating data stories because Inma is one of our creators and she is also news on the forum.
So yes, so regarding the question from Abdul, yes, we also create data stories based on tabular data. It's something we always envisage. So basically, it's true that the data stories they reflect static visualizations, so they are not that interactive. But the original source it can be this type of data with no issue. And there's no discussion for on dataset feedback. So we actually this is a very good question because we always try to improve what we have online. So every time you want to give feedback to that, we always welcome it through the contact form to give us feedback or say that there was some data set that should be discontinued or something to try to see how we can improve that. There might be some communities, some forums where you can actually exchange that in the future, but we cannot say more about that because it's something we're working on. Maybe, I don't know, by the end of the year, maybe Abdul, you will have this forum. Who knows? But it's something we're definitely working on. And then, of course, like we will have this functionality of giving feedback, rating data sets, because at the end of the day, this helps us as well to make more visible for you the data set that can be important or that are high quality data. Okay, sorry. Are there specific features? Yes. So there's a question from Marta on if there are specific courses in the academy beneficial for translators. It depends on what in what exactly you need, because I have the feeling that open data strategy is needed in every sector because it can help you to grasp the important information in every sector. Also, it can be in the translator sector. So here I would say to go through it, and depending on your needs, you can see if actually fits you, because sometimes, I don't know, translators wants to I don't know, you have a project and you want to visualize data. So we have specific courses for that. Or sometimes you want to put in place like a data strategy, so you all make data more open from the translation activities, and then it makes sense that you go into the introduction and to the basics. So it really depends on the needs that you may have. But so I really suggest you go through it and you check yourself and let us know because we'll be happy to know as well if you found something interesting. There's a question from Emily. Else, would you like to address it?
Yes, I can. So this is a question about data anonymization and personal data. So this is a topic we are very careful about. We do not want to share personal data, absolutely not. We want to make our users confident that we will never do this. Anonymizing data is a nice idea, but it's not so easy. Imagine we have also, for example, a lot of court cases. This is all quite delicate. So we are very careful about this. And I cannot say that we have immediately big plans to share anonymized data sets, but who
Mhm.
knows in the future?
Who knows?
Um,
Exactly. So I think more or less we covered all the questions. This makes me think as well that we maybe in the future improve or frequently asked questions, or this is something we should reflect on. So thank you very much for your questions. Just to close up, feedback is super important for us. I would say in the whole process to improve, to develop more services for you. So really take your feedback into consideration. So please fill it in and take a moment to do that. Anyway, you will receive an email to asking you to fill it in. And then there's going to be more upcoming activities with after this Open Data Week. So we have a very hectic March. So we will have one webinar on data spaces and on the European Green Deal data space, where we will have experts talking about why it's important, what is the state of play, and what are some companies doing for that, for climate neutrality. And we will have also one more legal and more governance, I would say, webinar that is going to be on data sovereignty and data governance, that is going to address on the part of the Data Governance Act and the Data Intermediary Service. So I really suggest you register. With this, you can follow us on our different social media channels, and we also suggest you to register to our newsletter. But anyway, we keep in touch. Thank you so much for your time and for the great discussions, and also else for being with me in this path of presenting our services.
Well, I want to thank you all for joining as well, for your listening, and for your many interesting questions. And yes, I can only repeat the idea of stay in touch, write to us, reach out, follow us. And yeah, for now, wherever you are, enjoy the day. I hope you, like us, have a bit of sun, or that it will come through the fog soon. Uh, and for those on the other side of the world, sweet dreams, sleep tight, and have a nice weekend. Bye bye.
Indeed. Bye. Thank you very much. Have a nice Friday and weekend.